She sat at the wrong table, not knowing she met a billionaire that night. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's jump into today's story. She had always dreamed of the perfect love story, but fate had other plans. After her engagement was unexpectedly called off, she found herself at a lavish restaurant, unknowingly seated at the wrong table. Her heart pounded in her chest, a wave of nervousness washing over her. She had never been to such a place before. The lights were dim, the clinking of silverware filled the air, and the people around her spoke in hushed tones, each conversation more elegant than the last. Emma Brooks, in her second-hand dress and worn shoes, felt entirely out of place. She adjusted her hair and tried to calm herself. Jenny, her best friend, had been setting her up on blind dates for weeks, but each one had ended in awkward silences or uncomfortable goodbyes. As she approached the table, she spotted a man sitting alone, his dark hair neatly styled, his tailored suit fitting him perfectly. He was engrossed in his phone, not even noticing her. This must be him, she thought. She walked over, forcing a smile. Hi. You must be Kevin. I'm Emma. Nice to meet you. The man looked up, startled, blinking at her for a moment as if trying to make sense of the situation. Hi Emma, he said, his voice smooth but confused. Emma, thinking it was just nervousness, brushed it off. I know, blind dates are always a little awkward, right? She said with a nervous laugh. Jenny mentioned you might be a bit shy, so don't worry, I can talk enough for both of us. The man, now slightly more relaxed, offered a small smile. Right, blind dates are something else. Emma, relieved to see he was willing to play along, took her seat. She fidgeted with her napkin, trying to push away the awkwardness. The conversation started flowing more easily than she expected, but it was filled with little missteps, like when she mentioned how she worked as a waitress. I know, it's not glamorous, she said, sipping her water, but it pays the bills. Well, most of them. What about you? She asked, trying to steer the conversation back to him. What do you do? The man looked at her, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his lips. I work in tech, he said, keeping his answer vague. Tech? She asked, intrigued. Like coding in apps. He chuckled softly. Something like that. The conversation continued, but Emma couldn't shake the thought of how unusual he seemed, how quiet, yet intriguing. He didn't boast about his wealth or his life. He was just there, listening, nodding, and occasionally offering a thoughtful comment. Emma found herself talking more than she ever had on a date, sharing stories about her shifts at the diner, the struggles of paying rent, and her dream of one day opening her own art studio. It felt strangely comfortable, even though she had no idea who this man really was. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced at the message, her heart sinking. Hey Emma, where are you? I'm at table 7. Looking forward to meeting you, Kevin. She looked up at him, her face burning with embarrassment. Oh my God, she muttered, standing up quickly. I'm so sorry, I sat at the wrong table. He stood up too, his expression a mix of surprise and something else she couldn't quite place. Wait, he said, but she was already grabbing her coat, mortified. She bolted for the door, her heart racing. As she stepped outside, she felt the cool night air hit her face, but it did little to calm her nerves. She couldn't believe she had just done that. She felt like an idiot. But as she walked away, a strange feeling lingered in her chest, a feeling she couldn't shake. Had she really just met someone special? Would she ever see him again? That night, back in her small apartment, Emma dropped onto the couch, covering her face with her hands. Well, that was a disaster, she whispered to herself. Jenny, sitting on the couch next to her, tried to hold back her laughter. What happened? She asked, already knowing the answer. Emma groaned, recounting the evening, how she had mistakenly sat at the wrong table, thinking it was her date. He was nice, she said, really nice actually. But then I found out I was at the wrong table, and I just ran off like an idiot. Jenny laughed softly. Sounds like a rom-com setup. Emma groaned again, burying her face in a pillow. I just hope I never see him again. Jenny raised an eyebrow. Are you sure about that? You said he was nice. Emma hesitated, then slowly nodded. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. I probably made a fool of myself. The next morning, Emma's phone buzzed again. This time, the message was from an unknown number. Hi, Emma. This is Liam. I was the guy at the restaurant the other night. I know it was a mix-up, but I'd love to see you again. Coffee maybe. Emma stared at the screen, her heart skipping a beat. Emma stared at her phone in disbelief. Was this really happening? The man she had awkwardly fled from the night before, the one she had mistakenly thought was someone else, was now texting her. Her heart raced as she reread the message, trying to make sense of it. Hi, Emma. This is Liam. I was the guy at the restaurant the other night. I know it was a mix-up, but I'd love to see you again. Coffee maybe. She couldn't help but feel a flutter of excitement mixed with the embarrassment of her earlier behavior. Was it possible that he actually wanted to see her again? She had to admit, there was something about him that intrigued her, even if she had no idea who he really was. Taking a deep breath, she typed back, Okay, coffee sounds nice. As she hit send, she felt a sense of relief wash over her. Maybe this was the universe giving her a second chance. The following day, Emma found herself in a small coffee shop, nervously waiting for Liam. The atmosphere was casual, a sharp contrast to the upscale restaurant where they had first met. She fiddled with her coffee cup, her thoughts racing. Was he really a millionaire? Did he know that she was struggling? What did he want from her? She shook her head, trying to clear her mind. She looked up as the door opened, and in walked Liam. He was dressed casually today, a sharp contrast to the tailored suit he had worn the night before. His presence still commanded attention, but there was something more relaxed about him now. As their eyes met, he smiled, and Emma felt her stomach flutter once again. He walked over to the table, and she stood up to greet him, suddenly feeling self-conscious. Hi, Emma, Liam said, his voice smooth and warm. Thanks for agreeing to meet up. No problem, she replied, her voice a little shakier than she intended. I'm glad you texted. Liam sat down across from her, and for a moment, they both just stared at each other in silence, unsure of what to say next. Finally, Emma broke the silence. So, tell me about your work in tech. He chuckled softly, a hint of amusement in his eyes. I could tell you, but I have a feeling you'd be lost halfway through, he said, his voice light. Let's just say I work on a lot of projects that help people in ways they don't realize. Emma raised an eyebrow. That sounds mysterious. Liam smiled. I like to keep things interesting. As they continued talking, Emma found herself opening up to him more than she expected. She talked about her struggles with her job as a waitress, the dream she had of one day opening an art studio, and the financial pressures she constantly faced. She didn't know why she was being so honest with him, but there was something about the way he listened, the way he didn't judge, that made her feel like she could share her worries. For the first time in a while, she didn't feel so alone. That's really impressive, Liam said after a moment, his voice genuine. You've got a lot of drive, Emma. Not many people could keep going the way you do. Emma felt her cheeks flush at the compliment, but she shrugged it off. I don't have much of a choice, she said with a soft laugh. I just do what I can to survive. Liam looked at her for a long moment, his gaze intense. You know, he said slowly, I think you're a lot more capable than you give yourself credit for. Emma felt a warmth spread through her at his words, but before she could respond, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Jenny. How's the date going? Did you run away again? Emma rolled her eyes and quickly typed back. It's going fine. No running away this time. She looked up at Liam, who was watching her with a curious expression. Everything okay? He asked, his voice softer now. Yeah, Emma said, putting her phone down. Just my best friend, making sure I'm not making a fool of myself again. Liam chuckled, clearly amused. I don't think you're making a fool of yourself at all. But if you are, I'm right there with you. The conversation flowed easily after that, and Emma felt herself starting to relax. As the coffee shop began to empty out, Liam checked his watch. I've really enjoyed this, Emma, he said, his tone more serious now. I'd like to see you again, if you're up for it. Emma's heart skipped a beat. Could this really be happening? Was she really having a good time with him? She smiled, feeling a strange mix of excitement and hesitation. I'd like that too, she said. As they stood up to leave, Liam handed her his coat. It's a little chilly out. Let me know if you need anything. Emma took the coat, her mind swirling with thoughts. Was this just a kind gesture, or was there something more to it? As they walked out into the cold, Emma couldn't help but wonder what the future held for her and Liam. She had no idea who he really was, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was finally seeing the possibility of something more. As the days passed, Emma found herself thinking about Liam more and more. Their coffee date had been unlike any she had experienced before. There was something genuine about him, something that made her feel seen and heard in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. They continued to meet, sometimes at cafes, sometimes just walking through the city, and with each meeting, she felt more drawn to him. He was kind, thoughtful, and most importantly, he made her feel like she mattered. It was a strange feeling, one that she wasn't sure how to handle. She had been so used to struggling on her own, to fighting every day just to stay afloat, that the idea of someone truly caring about her felt almost too good to be true. But deep down, she knew she couldn't keep pushing him away forever. One afternoon, as they sat in a quiet park near the edge of the city, Liam turned to her with a look in his eyes that she couldn't quite read. "Emma," he began, his voice gentle, "there's something I need to tell you." Her heart skipped a beat. Was he going to tell her the truth about who he really was? The mysterious man who worked in tech and had kept so much of himself hidden. She held her breath, waiting for him to speak. "I don't want you to think I've been dishonest with you," he continued, his gaze steady. "But I haven't exactly been upfront about everything." Emma's stomach tightened. She forced herself to stay calm, not wanting to let her insecurities take over. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam hesitated, then looked directly into her eyes. "The thing is, I'm not just some guy who works in tech. I'm the CEO of a company. I have a lot more money than you probably realize, and I didn't want you to think I was trying to impress you with that." Emma felt a rush of emotions all at once: surprise, confusion, and even a little hurt. He was a CEO? A millionaire? All this time, she had assumed he was just an ordinary guy, someone who shared her struggles and dreams. And now, it felt like the ground beneath her was shifting. She didn't know what to say. Part of her wanted to be angry, to feel betrayed, but another part of her just wanted to understand why he had kept this from her. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Liam let out a soft sigh, his expression softening. "I didn't want you to think that's what I cared about. I wanted you to see me for who I am, not for what I have." Emma looked down at her hands, unsure of what to think. She had to admit, she had always been afraid of people who had money, afraid of what they might want from her, or how they might see her. She had never imagined that someone like Liam could be interested in her, not for her looks or her situation, but for who she was. She had expected to be treated differently, to be seen as just another person chasing after wealth. But here was Liam, looking at her with the same sincerity he always had, with no hint of superiority. "I don't know what to say," she whispered, still processing everything. Liam reached out and took her hand, gently squeezing it. "You don't have to say anything. I just wanted to be honest with you, Emma. I care about you. I want you to know the real me." For the first time in days, Emma felt a sense of clarity. The confusion, the uncertainty, it all seemed to fade away in that moment. She realized that it wasn't about the money or the title. It was about the connection they had built, the way he had made her feel when they were together. "I'm not used to this," she said softly, her voice filled with vulnerability. "I've never had anyone care about me like this before. I've always been the one taking care of myself, looking out for my own survival." Liam smiled warmly at her, his hand still holding hers. "I understand. And I'm not asking you to change who you are. I just want you to know that I'm here for you, no matter what. You don't have to do it all alone." Emma felt a lump form in her throat. She had spent so many years feeling like she had to handle everything by herself, that the thought of someone offering to share the burden was overwhelming. She squeezed his hand back, a small tear escaping her eye. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'm not used to accepting help, but I'm starting to think that maybe it's okay to let someone in." As they sat there, their hands entwined, Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something real. Something that wasn't built on expectations or money, but on understanding and trust. She still had so many doubts, so many fears, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was on the right path. As the weeks went by, Emma found herself slowly letting her guard down around Liam. They spent more time together, each encounter leaving her with a growing sense of comfort. Liam was patient, understanding, and he never pushed her to open up more than she was ready for. He listened without judgment, and each time they talked, she felt a little less like the girl with nothing, and more like someone worthy of love. But despite all of this, Emma still couldn't shake the fear that this was all too good to be true. Could she really trust him? Could she let herself be vulnerable and love someone, knowing how much she had struggled in the past? One evening, they sat in Liam's apartment, a cozy space overlooking the city lights, which sparkled like stars in the distance. They were eating takeout, a simple dinner of pizza and pasta, but Emma felt at ease, a feeling she hadn't had in a long time. As she watched him laugh at one of her silly stories, she realized how much she had come to care for him. It wasn't just about the fact that he was a millionaire or his position in life. It was about how he made her feel, like she mattered, like she was seen. She smiled at him, her heart swelling. "You know, I never thought I'd be sitting here, eating pizza with a billionaire," she said, her voice light and teasing. Liam laughed, his eyes sparkling. "Well, I hope you're not just here for the pizza," he said with a playful grin. Emma chuckled. "I promise, it's not just the pizza," she said, feeling the warmth spread through her chest. "But I have to admit, it's a nice perk." Liam reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "I'm glad you think so," he said softly, his gaze serious now. "But I'm not just a billionaire, Emma. I'm a person, and I care about you, more than I've cared about anyone in a long time." Emma's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't expected him to say that, at least not so openly, but it felt right. His words made her heart race, and for the first time, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, this was real. "I care about you too," she whispered, squeezing his hand gently. "But sometimes I'm scared. Scared of everything changing. Scared of letting myself love someone and then losing them." Liam's expression softened, and he stood up, walking over to the window for a moment to collect his thoughts. When he turned back to her, his face was calm and resolute. "Emma," he began, his voice steady, "I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for the long haul. I'm not going to hurt you." Her heart skipped a beat. He was so sincere, and yet, a part of her still couldn't shake the fear that she might be setting herself up for heartbreak. She had been through so much already, and the idea of risking it all for love felt terrifying. But as she looked into his eyes, she realized that maybe love was worth the risk. Maybe, for once, it was okay to trust someone. "Thank you," she said quietly, her voice trembling with emotion. "I'm not used to someone being so sure about things. It feels nice, but it's also a little overwhelming." Liam smiled gently, walking back to the table and sitting beside her. "I understand. I don't want to rush you, but I'm here whenever you're ready." Emma felt a tear slip down her cheek, though she quickly wiped it away, embarrassed. "I don't want to be afraid anymore," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But sometimes I just don't know how to stop." Liam reached out, gently brushing away the tear from her cheek. "You don't have to do it alone, Emma. I'm here with you, every step of the way." For the first time in a long time, Emma felt a sense of peace settle over her. It wasn't just about the promises he made, but about the way he showed up for her, day after day. She realized that maybe this was the love she had been waiting for, the kind of love that wasn't based on expectations or superficiality, but on trust, kindness, and a willingness to be vulnerable with each other. The night wore on, and they continued talking, laughing, and sharing small moments that made Emma feel like she was finally where she was supposed to be. She wasn't sure what the future would hold, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid to find out. She was ready to take the leap. As they sat together, Emma felt the walls she had spent so many years building around her heart begin to crack. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't perfect, but with Liam by her side, she started to believe that maybe, just maybe, love could heal the deepest wounds. And for the first time, she allowed herself to dream of a future where she wasn't just surviving, but truly living. Days turned into weeks, and Emma found herself adjusting to this new chapter in her life, a chapter that felt too good to be true. Liam had kept his word. He was patient, understanding, and always there when she needed him. But with each passing day, the same question lingered in her mind. Was this really love, or was she just fooling herself into believing it? She hadn't let anyone close in a long time, and now here she was, sharing her life with someone she barely knew. The fear of getting hurt was still there, lurking in the back of her mind, but she couldn't ignore the warmth that Liam brought into her life. He wasn't like the others. He didn't try to impress her or buy her affection. He just wanted to be with her. But that didn't stop the doubts from creeping in. One evening, as they sat on the couch together, Emma watched Liam as he scrolled through his phone, his brow furrowed. She knew he had been busy with work, but something about the way he seemed distracted caught her attention. "Liam?" she asked softly, her voice breaking the silence. He looked up, his expression softening when he met her gaze. "Sorry, I was just reading something." "What's up?" he asked, setting his phone down. Emma hesitated for a moment, unsure if she should ask what had been on her mind. "You've been acting a little distant lately," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Is everything okay?" Liam paused, his expression shifting for a moment before he let out a deep breath. "Yeah, everything's fine. It's just that I've been dealing with some things at work, and I guess I've been a little preoccupied. But I'm here with you, Emma. I promise." His words were reassuring, but Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She had grown used to the quiet moments they shared, the comfort of just being with him. But now she felt like there was a wall between them. She didn't want to push him, but the thought of losing him scared her more than she cared to admit. She leaned in, her voice trembling slightly as she spoke. "You know, I've been thinking a lot about us, about how fast everything is moving. And I just don't want to wake up one day and realize that I've let myself fall for someone who isn't as invested as I am." Liam's eyes widened at her words, and for a moment, she saw the vulnerability in his eyes that she had never noticed before. He reached out and gently cupped her face, his thumb brushing against her cheek. "Emma," he said softly, "you don't have to worry about that. I'm here because I want to be, because I care about you. I've never been more certain about anything in my life." Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her, but the fear still lingered. "But what if I'm just not good enough for you? What if I can't give you the kind of life you're used to?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam shook his head, his expression serious. "That's not what matters to me, Emma. What matters is who you are, not where you come from or what you have. I'm not interested in the money or the status. I'm interested in you. The person you are, the way you make me feel, that's what I want." His words were like a balm to her wounded heart, but the doubts still swirled inside her. Could she really believe him? Could she trust that this wasn't some grand gesture, some act of kindness to make her feel better? She wanted to believe it. She really did. But the fear of losing him, the fear of opening herself up only to be let down, was almost too much to bear. For the next few days, Emma tried to push the doubts aside. She told herself that if Liam really cared about her, everything would be okay. But she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something he was still keeping from her. She had seen the way he acted when he was on his phone, the way he seemed distracted and distant. She wondered if he was hiding something, if there was more to his life than what he had let her see. It was late one night when the truth finally came to light. Emma had been up late, lying in bed, when she heard Liam talking on the phone in the other room. She couldn't make out the words, but the tone of his voice was sharp, tense. Her heart raced as she tried to make sense of what was happening. She had never seen him this way before. When the call ended, Liam walked back into the room, his face expressionless. He didn't seem to notice the way Emma was looking at him, the concern in her eyes. She took a deep breath, her voice steady but filled with curiosity. "Who was that?" Liam froze for a moment, his eyes flicking to hers before he looked away. "Just work," he said quickly, his voice tight. But Emma could tell that something was off. "Liam," she said softly, "what's really going on?" He sighed deeply, running a hand through his hair. "I didn't want to burden you with this," he said, his voice low. "But there's a situation with the company, a crisis, really. And I'm trying to fix it, but it's not easy. I just didn't want to worry you." Emma felt a lump form in her throat. It wasn't just the crisis he was dealing with. It was the way he had been hiding it from her, keeping her at arm's length. She had always prided herself on being strong, on handling everything on her own. But now, she realized that maybe, just maybe, it was time to let someone else in. She walked over to him, her hand gently resting on his arm. "You don't have to go through this alone," she said softly. "I'm here for you, Liam. Always." He looked at her, his expression softening. "I know," he whispered. "And I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I was just trying to protect you." Emma smiled, her heart swelling with affection. "You don't need to protect me," she said. "We're in this together." For the first time in a long time, Emma felt a sense of peace. They had faced the uncertainty, the doubt, and the fear, and they were still standing side by side. She realized then that love wasn't just about the happy moments. It was about being there for each other through the tough times too. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. The days that followed brought a sense of relief to Emma. She and Liam had finally been honest with each other about their fears and the things they had been holding back. Liam was no longer the distant figure he once was, and Emma felt the walls she had built around herself slowly start to crumble. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to believe in something good, something real. But as much as she tried to embrace the happiness they were building together, a lingering question remained. Was this just a fleeting moment, or was this the start of something lasting? Emma didn't know. She wanted to believe it was real, but the scars of her past made it hard to fully let go of her doubts. One evening, after a long day of work, Emma sat on the couch in Liam's apartment, her eyes drifting to the window where the city lights twinkled below. Liam was in the kitchen, preparing dinner. It was a simple meal, nothing fancy, but the comfort of being with him made everything feel better. She still couldn't quite shake the feeling that something was about to change, but she didn't want to focus on that now. Instead, she focused on the moment, on the warmth that Liam brought into her life. She glanced over at him, watching as he moved around the kitchen, his movements confident and easy. There was a calmness to him that she had never expected, and it made her feel safe, in a way she hadn't in years. "You know," Liam said, breaking the silence, "I've been thinking a lot lately." Emma raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "About what?" she asked. He looked over at her, his expression thoughtful. "About us. About how we've been building something here. Something real. I'm not asking for forever right away, but I want to see where this goes. I want you to know that I'm serious about this, about you." Emma felt her heart race at his words. They had been taking things slow, but hearing him say it out loud made it all feel so much more real. She stood up, walking over to him. Her hand reached for his, and for a moment, they just stood there, silently. The warmth of his hand in hers felt like a promise, a reassurance that they were in this together. She looked up at him, her voice soft but steady. "I've been scared, Liam," she admitted. "Scared of getting hurt, scared of losing what we have. But I know now that I don't want to let fear control me anymore. I want to see where this goes too." She felt his fingers tighten around hers, a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "I'm glad to hear that," he said quietly. "We'll take it one step at a time, together." Over the next few weeks, their connection deepened. They spent more time together, not just in moments of joy, but in the quiet, everyday moments that made life feel real. They cooked dinner together, took walks through the city, and shared stories about their pasts. Emma began to feel like she wasn't alone anymore. She wasn't just surviving, she was truly living. Liam's presence gave her a sense of peace she had never known, and with each day, her doubts began to fade, replaced by a growing sense of trust and love. But despite the happiness they were building, Emma still had one major concern. Liam's life was far from ordinary. He was a billionaire, a CEO, a man with power and influence. Emma couldn't help but wonder if there was a limit to how much she could fit into his world. She wasn't from that world. She didn't have the same background, the same wealth, or the same connections. Would that be a problem? Would he eventually want someone more like him? Someone who fit better into his circle? One afternoon, as they walked through a park, Emma decided to voice her concerns. "Liam," she began, her voice hesitant, "I know things are good between us right now, but I can't help but feel like I don't belong in your world. You have so much, so many people around you, so many opportunities. And I'm just, well, me." Liam stopped walking and turned to face her, his expression serious. "You belong with me, Emma. It doesn't matter where you come from, or what you have. What matters is who you are, and that's why I'm here." Emma felt a knot form in her stomach. "But what about all the people around you? The people you work with, the people in your life? What if they don't accept me? What if they think I don't belong?" she asked, her voice trembling. Liam reached out and cupped her face gently, lifting her chin so that she had no choice but to meet his gaze. "I don't care what anyone else thinks. I'm not with you because of what you have or what people think of us. I'm with you because I care about you, and that's all that matters." His words were like a balm to her fears, and for the first time, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she was enough. She smiled up at him, feeling a sense of relief wash over her. As they continued their walk, Emma realized that her fears, her doubts about whether she could fit into his world, were just that, fears. Liam hadn't once made her feel small or unworthy. If anything, he made her feel like she was enough, just as she was. She didn't need to change or pretend to be someone else. She was enough for him. And for the first time in a long time, Emma felt truly at peace, knowing that love wasn't about fitting into someone else's world, but about creating a world together. It had been a few weeks since Emma and Liam had decided to take their relationship to the next level, and Emma felt like she was finally beginning to breathe again. Things had settled into a comfortable rhythm, and she found herself looking forward to their time together more and more. But as much as she tried to push her doubts aside, something still lingered in the back of her mind. It wasn't the fear of Liam's wealth or the difference in their worlds. No, it was something deeper, a feeling that things were moving too quickly, that they were both diving into something without fully understanding what it meant. One evening, as they sat on the couch in Liam's apartment, Emma couldn't shake the thought that had been swirling in her head all day. She had been trying to ignore it, but it was starting to feel like it was too big to ignore anymore. "Liam," she said, her voice tentative. "Can we talk about something?" He looked up from his phone, his expression warm and open. "Of course, what's on your mind?" Emma took a deep breath, her hands fidgeting in her lap. "I've been thinking about us, about everything. And I just feel like we might be rushing into things. I mean, we've only known each other for a few months, and everything feels so intense. I don't want to mess things up, but I also don't want to rush into something we're not ready for." Liam's expression softened as he listened to her, and for a moment, Emma felt like she had just said the most ridiculous thing. But Liam didn't dismiss her worries. He didn't even try to convince her to change her mind. Instead, he leaned forward, his voice gentle. "I get it," he said. "I've felt the same way sometimes. But you need to know that I'm not in a rush either. I want this to work, but I'm not going anywhere. If we need to take our time, we will. I'm here for you, no matter how long it takes." Emma felt a weight lift off her chest. She had feared that by voicing her concerns, she would somehow push him away, that he would see her as indecisive or unsure. But instead, he had shown her patience and understanding. It was something she wasn't used to, but it was exactly what she needed. "Thank you," she said quietly, her voice filled with relief. "I needed to hear that. I just want to make sure that I'm not rushing into something because I'm afraid of being alone, or because I feel like this is my last chance at happiness." Liam reached for her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "Emma, you don't have to rush for any reason. I'm not going anywhere. We'll take it slow, and we'll figure it out together." Over the next few days, they both made a conscious effort to slow things down. They spent more time talking, really talking, about their hopes, fears, and dreams. They took long walks through the city, enjoying each other's company without any pressure or expectations. It wasn't about moving forward too quickly anymore. It was about finding comfort in each other's presence, in simply being together. And with each passing day, Emma felt herself falling for Liam all over again. This time, not because of his wealth or the lavish lifestyle he could offer, but because of who he was as a person. One evening, as they walked hand in hand along the riverfront, Liam stopped and turned to face her. "Emma," he said, his voice serious yet warm, "I've been thinking about what you said, and I want you to know that I'm not asking you to make any big decisions right now. But I do know this. I want you in my life. I want you to be a part of my future, however that looks. I'm not asking for a promise, just that you'll be open to the possibility." Emma looked up at him, her heart racing in her chest. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, the way he was laying himself bare, without any guarantees or expectations. And for the first time, Emma realized that she didn't need all the answers. She didn't need everything to be perfect. What she needed was the freedom to explore this love, without pressure or fear of the future. She smiled softly, her voice filled with emotion. "I'm open to the possibility, Liam. I really am." They stood there for a moment, just taking in the quiet beauty of the city around them. Emma realized that the doubts that had once plagued her were starting to fade, replaced by something else, hope. She wasn't sure where this would go, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid to find out. As weeks passed, Emma found herself more comfortable in her relationship with Liam. They had settled into a rhythm that felt natural, free from pressure and expectations. They spent their time together enjoying simple moments, whether it was cooking dinner together, taking walks, or just relaxing on the couch. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt at peace, Her heart no longer weighed down by fear or doubt. The walls she had built around herself were slowly crumbling, and she was allowing herself to embrace the love that was blossoming between them. But as the relationship grew, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that there was something important she needed to know, something that Liam still hadn't shared with her. It wasn't that she didn't trust him, she did. He had shown her nothing but kindness, patience, and understanding. But there was still a part of her that wondered if there was more to his life than he had let on. He had been open with her about his work, but there were still areas of his life that seemed off-limits, things he never discussed. She couldn't help but feel like there was a side of him she hadn't yet seen, and it left her with a lingering sense of unease. One evening, after a quiet dinner at home, Emma found herself sitting on the couch, staring out the window at the city lights. Liam was in the kitchen, cleaning up after dinner. She had tried to push her concerns aside, telling herself that it wasn't important, but the more she thought about it, the more she realized that if they were going to move forward together, she needed to know everything. She needed to understand the man she was falling for, completely and without reservation. When Liam returned to the living room, he noticed the thoughtful look on Emma's face. "Hey," he said softly, sitting down beside her. "What's on your mind?" Emma hesitated, her thoughts swirling. This wasn't easy for her. She had spent so many years guarding herself, not letting anyone in fully. But with Liam, it felt different. She felt safe, and she knew that if they were going to have a future together, there could be no more secrets between them. "I've been thinking," she began, her voice quiet but steady. "And I need to ask you something." Liam turned to her, his expression open and encouraging. "Anything," he said, sensing the weight of her words. "You know that I care about you, right?" she asked, her eyes searching his for reassurance. He nodded. "I know. I care about you too." Emma took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "But I need to ask, what is it that you're not telling me? I know you're busy with work, but sometimes it feels like there's more to your life that you haven't shared with me." For a moment, Liam didn't speak. He just looked at her, his gaze intense. Emma could see that he was weighing his words carefully. She had never pushed him for details about his life, about his wealth or his work, but now, in the quiet of the room, it felt like the right time to ask. She couldn't keep going forward without knowing the whole truth. Finally, Liam spoke, his voice calm but filled with a sense of seriousness. "You're right. There's something I've been keeping from you, and it's time I tell you the truth. The truth is, I didn't grow up with the same struggles you've had. I didn't face the same obstacles. My family has always been wealthy, and I've always had everything I could ever want. But despite all of that, I've always felt like something was missing. I've spent so much of my life chasing success, trying to build a legacy, that I lost sight of what really matters. And that's when I met you." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had always known that Liam was different, but hearing him speak so openly about his past, about his struggles, was something she hadn't expected. He wasn't just the millionaire businessman she had imagined. He was a person, someone who had his own doubts, his own battles. And it made her feel even closer to him. He continued, his voice softening as he looked at her. "I didn't want you to think that I was just interested in you because of who I am or what I have. I wanted you to know me for who I really am. And for the first time, I feel like I've found something real. With you." Emma felt her chest tighten, her emotions swirling as she looked at him. She had never seen this side of Liam before, this vulnerability, this honesty. It made her realize that she wasn't the only one with fears and insecurities. They both had their own struggles, and that was okay. She reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "Thank you for being honest with me," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I didn't know how much I needed to hear that. I've been scared, too, scared of losing something real, something that feels too good to be true. But I know now that we can build something together, something that's real and not based on all the things that don't matter." Liam smiled, his eyes soft and full of affection. "I'm glad you feel that way," he said quietly. "Because I want to build that with you, Emma. No more secrets, no more walls. Just us, figuring things out together." In that moment, Emma felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. They had faced their fears, their insecurities, and come out stronger on the other side. She wasn't alone anymore, and neither was he. They were in this together, and that was all that mattered. As the days went by, Emma and Liam's relationship grew even stronger. They had faced their fears, shared their vulnerabilities, and most importantly, they had learned to trust each other. Emma no longer felt the weight of her past holding her back. With Liam, she had found someone who accepted her for who she was, not because of what she had or didn't have. And for the first time in her life, she felt truly seen, not as a girl who had to struggle to survive, but as a woman deserving of love and happiness. It wasn't perfect, but nothing ever was. And that's what made their connection so real. One evening, as they sat on the balcony of Liam's apartment, looking out over the city, Emma felt a sense of calm settle over her. She wasn't worried about what the future held. For the first time, she was allowing herself to be fully present in the moment. Liam was beside her, his hand resting on hers, and they didn't need to say anything for the silence to be comfortable. There was peace in simply being together. "You know," Liam said after a long pause, his voice soft, "I used to think I had to do everything on my own, that I couldn't let anyone in because I didn't want to be vulnerable. But meeting you has changed that. I feel like I can finally be myself." Emma turned to look at him, her heart swelling with affection. She had never seen him so open before, so unguarded. "I feel the same way," she replied. "I used to think that I had to protect myself, that I couldn't let anyone close, because I was afraid of getting hurt. But with you, it's different. You've made me feel safe. I've never felt this way before." Liam smiled at her, his eyes full of warmth. "I'm glad," he said, "because I want to be that person for you. I want to be the one who's there for you, no matter what." Emma's heart skipped a beat. The sincerity in his words, the way he looked at her, it was everything she had ever wanted. In that moment, she realized that all the doubts she had once held had faded away. She didn't need to worry about the future anymore. She had Liam, and that was enough. Over the next few months, Emma and Liam continued to build their lives together. They traveled, laughed, and faced challenges as a team. There were moments of doubt, of course, moments when Emma wondered if she was truly worthy of all the love and happiness Liam had brought into her life. But each time those doubts crept in, she remembered what they had built together, and she knew that she was exactly where she was meant to be. One day, as they walked through the park, Liam stopped in front of a fountain, turning to face her. His eyes sparkled with a mix of excitement and something deeper, something Emma couldn't quite place. "Emma," he said, his voice a little shaky, "I've been thinking a lot about our future, and I know I'm ready for the next step. I want to spend the rest of my life with you." Emma's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't expected this, but the moment felt so right. "Liam," she whispered, "I want that too." He smiled, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a small box. Opening it, he revealed a simple, yet beautiful ring. "Will you marry me, Emma?" Her heart raced as she looked at the ring, at Liam, and at the life they had built together. In that moment, everything fell into place. She realized that all the fears, all the doubts, had led her to this one perfect moment. "Yes," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. "Yes, I will marry you." Liam gently slid the ring onto her finger, and they stood there for a moment, just holding each other, savoring the feeling of knowing that they were about to embark on a new journey together. Emma felt an overwhelming sense of peace and happiness, knowing that with Liam, she had found her forever. As they walked hand in hand back through the park, Emma couldn't help but think about how far she had come. She had once thought that love was out of her reach, that she wasn't worthy of it. But now, with Liam by her side, she knew that love was not just about finding someone to be with. It was about finding someone who made you feel whole, who accepted you for who you were, flaws and all. And as they walked into the future together, Emma knew that no matter what challenges they would face them side by side, stronger together than they could ever be apart.